first, we're going to have our roundtable discussion about contactee experiences and UFOs and a little bit of paranormal. We have Karen Holton and Preston Dennett joining us. Karen, Preston, how are y'all doing?
Good, thanks.
Yeah, doing great.
Yeah,
Pretty
welcome.
excited.
Yes, I am very excited. Excited to hear your presentations.
My guide, one of my guides, I call him Bob the Gray. He showed me Chris on board a massive big ship with all different kinds of beings. And Chris was talking to this really tall blue guy, and he had like a long neck, and he was bald, and he was blue. And I went, oh my God, I thought that's really cool. Now my guides don't show me anything unless it's got a purpose, right? So I don't know what the purpose even is. I just follow through with the part I'm supposed to play. So I went online because I'm not familiar with a lot of the common ET types that are, that most people are familiar with, because the beings I deal with are galactic or intergalactic, which is another sort of, I don't know, realm. Anyway, so I did some research and I looked through some images on blue beings and search engine, and it came up with a couple images, and I sent them to Chris. I said, Chris, does your guy look anything like these guys? And Chris said, oh my God, Karen, you hit the nail on the head. So if that isn't proof, I don't know what is. And, and it was great. So, so anyway.
Yeah. So that, that kind of let me know that there was something more going on, and Karen helped me understand a lot about the experience, which was great. And like I said, I've had here and there a couple of other little experiences of communication and downloads, but nothing as profound as those. But we'll see. I'm still looking, open to it and ready for anything if they have more messages. Now, Karen, in your experiences, mainly you're taken in your sleep, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, how does that work? Are you do you have to enter a deep sleep or a dream state before this can happen?
I hate to tell you this, but it actually has nothing to do with me. I just go to bed and go to sleep. And this happened around 2014, 2015, and it only went on for a 3-month period. It's not like I do this all the time. And so it was about 3 months of Earth time, but my actual experiences was more like over 3 years worth, because the amount of information I know and what I remember doing, it just doesn't fit into a 3-month period. There's no way. So I realized there's a huge time differential, but I don't know for sure if I was still in my bed sleeping. All I knew is that I would wake up in the morning and go, holy smokes, wow, and spend the day just kind of shaking my head. People thought that I had lost my senses completely. And I was really careful to stay away from any mental health agencies around that time, because I totally loved my experiences. I wanted more, and I was so grateful for them. But so as far as I know, I was sleeping. Last year, for people who want to watch the conference from last year, I talk a bit about my orientation process. So anyway, for the orientation process, though, I figure I had to have been there by location, because I was there physically. We go through this scan, and it takes some kind of data from us of what we look like on the inside, on the outside, our energies, our traumas, our past life experiences. Like, it's really comprehensive. And I don't think that could have happened if I was there etherically. Now, I do go there. I have gone back etherically, and that's the easiest way. And it's kind of, I don't know if it's remote viewing, astral traveling, lucid dreaming. Hell, I don't know. I mean, sometimes I even wonder why I've been chosen for this kind of work, because it's not like I'm some kind of expert. I actually seem to be the last one to know what's going on sometimes. But And then there's the whole issue of clone bodies, which I'm going to talk about tomorrow in my presentation, which makes it much easier because we can just do a consciousness transfer into our clone bodies and then have complete physicality. Meanwhile, I'm snoozing and drooling on my pillow at home. I don't know how it works. It just works.
All right. Very, very interesting. Now, Preston, is it another common thing that people are taken in their sleep when they have contact experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. That does happen quite a bit, but it's certainly not the rule. People are taken astrally, people are taken physically, and this can happen while you're driving. I know people have been taken from hotel rooms. Literally, you can be taken anywhere at any time. And I am convinced that it's often a very physical experience. I mean, we know this because people are healed of illness. Yeah, when you told me about being healed, I'm like, wow, yeah, I'm absolutely 100% convinced healing humanity is one of the primary ET agendas. There's a lot of fear surrounding this subject, which is unfortunate. You know, we are a little bit fear-based in our society, and certainly the media latches onto that. But I'm not afraid of UFOs. I think it's great news because I've documented some 300 cases of people who've been healed. And that convinces me this is absolutely a physical phenomena. I mean, people are being implanted. They come back and have something in their bodies. And this is verified over and over again by really baffled doctors who are like, how come you have this metal thing in your foot? What's this in your sinus? What's this in your arm? Have you ever had surgery? And the contactees are like, well, no, I haven't. So yeah, I think it also is astral. And people I know have been taken physically and then pulled out of their body on board the UFO astrally. So it's a mixture of all of this. Contact takes many, many different forms. Some people just have telepathic contact. Some people have what I would call inspiration. They're being sort of downloaded information and might not even be aware of where this is coming from. I'm also convinced contact is far, far more common than most people realize. I remember I heard a quote from J. Allen Hynek that 1 in 40 people have had an onboard experience. And I thought, no way, that's way too many. That's an epidemic. I know 40 people. I heard this early on in my research, and that's what really kicked me into high gear. I'm like, well, if that's true, I know someone who's been taken on board. And that got me to ask everyone I knew. And I didn't have to ask 40 people before I had found 5 within my circle of family, friends, and coworkers who showed all the markers of this. And I surveyed all the major researchers, and I wrote an article for the MUFON Journal called 1 in 40, UFO Epidemic, which was the title of my second book, actually. And it was about a year later that the Roper organization, who does formal polls, formal surveys, they tackled the UFO subject and did a huge survey on how many people are having contact, how many people have been taken on board. And they found 1 in 50. So yeah, this is much more common, and contact takes, people are contacted over the telephone. No kidding. That is a thing. I documented some 20, 30 cases of that. So contact can take a really wide variety of forms. It's not always physical. It's sometimes astral. It's sometimes just little different ways that they can contact people.
Now, Karen, I'm assuming since this is happening in your sleep that all the contact and all the communication is telepathic, or is it different in any way?
Well, I can communicate. You mean like during the day I can communicate if I have a question or something, but it's not the way people think it is. Like I communicate with different kinds of beings. And some people think, oh, my head must be so full with all these beings. Well, it doesn't work like that. I only get really inspiration or information or whatever I need from what feels like one being at a time. but I can sort of sense where it's coming from by the tone or the type of information, or and sometimes I just don't know. I just trust it all because so far it's all been good. But I wanted to say a thing about the healing thing too. You know, I've had some major impairments, including chronic pain all my life, and my beings didn't heal me. But the reason they didn't heal me was because part of my training was to produce a program to share with all of humanity where we heal ourselves. So what they did do is give me all of the elements so that I could heal myself. And so for me, it didn't happen like a quick instant healing. It's an ongoing healing, so that every day, well, sometimes I go, you know, sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 1 back, just to be honest, okay? But my progress is just unbelievable. And just one thing I want to throw out there is I weighed 320 pounds almost all of my adult life. And I haven't had a weight problem now ever since my spiritual awakening, because I'm given the information I need to heal myself. And then I'm getting that out to the public and for free, because you know, people shouldn't have to pay for their healing, not in my opinion. And so anyway, so that's just a little bit different, but again, how it worked in my situation.
I love that. Yeah, I hear that so often. Contactees are given all kinds of information on healing. And I get very interested in Reiki and hands-on healing, and really a wide variety of psychic phenomena. It can be everything from astral travel, which happened to me simultaneously when I began doing UFO research. I began having really profound out-of-body experiences. But yeah, past lives, all sorts of stuff, psychic reading. This comes hand in hand. There's a very strong spiritual component to UFO encounters. That is another of their major agendas, I'm convinced, is to wake us up spiritually to our own, I'll call it thesuperhuman potential. It's not superhuman. It's absolutely natural. These are abilities we all have. And they're really doing their best to wake us up to who we truly are and what we can do, which is pretty much anything. I mean, we are unlimited. We have all the power of the universe within us.
I think what you just said is at the heart of ET activism as well.
Now, Preston, when we're talking about psychic communication, are pretty much most of the contactee cases that you've researched, does the communication is psychic, or is there ever, you know, communication normally like between, you know, with your mouth and physical communication?
Yeah, people do have talked audibly with ETs, and I've talked to people who've heard the Greys talking audibly in their own language, which I'm like, what does it sound? It was very high pitched and squeaky is how they've often described it. But telepathy is universal. Telepathy, by the way, is not speculation. It's been proven in a laboratory setting. I think most people on Earth have had an experience with telepathy, particularly with their loved ones. And it is pretty much, as far as I can tell, universal among all different types of ETs. It's a very effective way to communicate. It's much more quick and much more expansive. You can relay an enormous amount of information in a very small period of time. There's a thing called downloads, which has become sort of a term in this subject. Where people get just an enormous amount of information in I'll say a split second. It just comes at you and you have to slowly unravel it because we're in, you know, the physical world. It's very linear here. But time, you know, it's interesting, Karen, you said that you felt like you've had years of experience, which doesn't fit into the, you know, months that you went through. And yeah, time flows differently on the other side or inside a UFO, because they are at a higher vibration. They're interdimensional. ETs have an incredible understanding of time. And I know of many people who've had experiences that are much longer than they were. I mean, they'll be taken and returned to the scene. And it's only minutes have passed, but they've had an experience which lasted hours. But yeah, communication telepathy, I think, is the norm. One case comes to mind, though. One lady, she had a bunch of experiences with gray ETs. She had been taken on board, and one day she just reached out to her hybrid child and had a telepathic communication, and he was communicating with her telepathically, but she would ask her questions audibly. She would just say out loud, why did you take me? And then she would get the telepathic message. So I think it goes both ways. And I've talked to people who've been taken on board and saw human-looking ETs, and they're like, no, we talked out loud. It was completely normal, like we do here. But even here, when we are talking, there's truly a telepathic component. When people are talking to each other, they're also communicating telepathically. It might be subconscious to them, but once you start raising your vibration, and I think, for me, having out-of-body experiences really woke that up in me, and I started hearing what people were thinking at times, and while they were talking. And it's funny because if someone lies to you, you sort of begin to pick up on it, and they're saying one thing and thinking another. But you can kind of tell a truly sincere person when their words match their thoughts, and it's much easier to understand them, as opposed to someone who's lying and telling you one thing and thinking another. And I'm like trying to understand what they're saying because I'm like, what? But yeah, telepathy is huge in the ET community, and that's how they communicate pretty much universally.
Yeah, there's some researchers in the community that believe because they're so telepathic, they can, project these feelings of love or project whatever they want, but being deceitful about it, because they have a different agenda, but they want us to think, that they're loving and they want to help us, but they really have some nefarious agendas. What are your thoughts on, when people or researchers tell you that, Preston?
Yeah, I've looked at this really carefully, because when I first got involved in the UFO field, I was not happy. I'm like, well, this does not look good for us. People are being kidnapped against their will, subjected to horrific experiments, left with post-traumatic stress disorder. They've got scars. What's going on?
Mhm.
And is this, some people are saying they love the ETs. Is this Stockholm syndrome? And I had to really step back, look at this objectively, throw away all my prior misconceptions or what I believed about this, and just scientifically look at it. And what I found is this is actually really good for people. By their fruits you shall know them. People who have UFO experiences come back spiritually transformed for the better. And I am not going to say these are all our space brothers. I'm absolutely not convinced this is all puppies and rainbows and lollipops. No, their ET behavior falls very much under the same umbrella as human behavior. The things they do are very much, I think, what we would do if we were to contact another race. And yeah, I've talked, to a lot of people, and some do have unpleasant experiences. They're not happy about what's happened to them. Their health has suffered. They've had emotional trauma. There is a bell curve of behavior, which is not always great. I'm not going to say every ET is out here to help us. But I think if you look at the evidence, it would be a lot easier to prove humanity is a hostile species than it would be to prove that ETs are. Because when someone's taken on board, what I don't see is outright evil behavior where they delight in hurting people, sadistic type behavior, torturing. The worst I get is sort of a unemotional lack of compassion, a real bad bedside manner, you might say. And some people do have, painful examinations. And every time I say, well, they're healing people, someone will say, hey, that didn't happen to me. And my heart goes out to them. Because I think there are different groups. And this is a wide, infinite universe. There are a lot of different types of ETs out there. But by and large, and generally speaking, I don't think this is something we have to fear. I think it's good news for us. If ETs wanted to take over our planet and turn us into their slaves, they could have done so long ago. I mean, that's the one thing I think pretty much all researchers agree upon is these guys, and experiencers for that matter, these guys are very advanced technologically and spiritually. I don't think they're here to hurt us at all. I don't think that's their agenda one bit. And in fact, when someone is experiencing pain or fear or trauma, often ETs will take steps to mitigate that. They will put their hand on a person's forehead and remove the pain, or they will flat out just put them unconscious because the person is in such a state of abject fear. So yeah, I do think that there are probably some bad guys out there, but I think there's more good guys. I sort of feel the same way about humanity. There's a portion of people on this planet, and I think we can tell this by just the greed and the corruption and the division, that do not have our best interests in mind. But overall, I think there's more good people on this planet, and I think we're progressing rapidly. I'm very hopeful about how things are going to turn out. And I think the ETs are truly good news for us. And as I said, they are working hard to wake us up spiritually. When someone's taken on board, yeah, they're physically examined. But if they move beyond that fear state, and I see this over and over again with people who have extensive encounters and really face them head on, they start having wonderful spiritual encounters. They are given warnings about nuclear proliferation, pollution, our warlike ways. They're taken into the engine room or to the control room, told how the ship works, given detailed plans, allowed to fly the ship, taught how to fly the ship, given tours of the solar system, other planets. I mean, that is not unusual, seriously. And yeah, again, a very strong spiritual component. They teach. That's what they're all about. So I think overall, this is really good news for us.